Your echo decided that you're not.
Why is it echoing?
Who cares? We are now going. All right.
No, this is pissing me off.
Wonderful. Good start.
Hey.
Could it be? Wait, could it be video audio?
I always just put the link into the thing I have on OBS. So.
Is there audio coming through video in your OBS setup?
On mine?
Yeah.
I mean, I just have it coming through the computer, so I have only Discord.
Okay.
Okay, I don't hear an echo anymore.
Yeah, I don't hear an echo anymore. So it must.
Okay, it's gone. Yeah.
Video.
Yeah. Perfect.
All right, let's actually get this started now. Take two, y'all. All right, welcome back, everyone. Headrammer calling timeout.
What's the timeless tea?
Welcome back to the second episode of For the Love of Prod. As always, I'm Dexatron. That is Hunter. That is Megalass. And the person we have down the bottom right this week is none other than the pistachio cult leader himself, Headrammer.
Hello, thanks for having me. Unfortunately, I did not bring any pistachios for the group. They're currently under security review.
You failed us. You failed us.
It could be like that.
Yeah. Well, how is everyone doing? Mega, thank you for dropping your link. Hunter, thank you guys for being here again. Headrammer, thank you for doing this.
I don't want to hear it from you. I don't want to hear it. I fully set up the link. I just did not click Control V.
Where's the proof?
We have the Discord for proof.
You know what? This is a recording that has to go up on YouTube, so I'll just be quiet and smile.
I mean, you don't have to be.
No. The things I could say, I'd rather not.
We just see like the FTC censor logo up here.
I can't wait for the first explicit episode of the podcast.
Yeah, like I could
After
go
dark.
I could go back through and censor stuff. I would have to put in extra work to do it, but I could go back through.
Some more work.
I would just basically cut out all sound on DaVinci, and that would be it.
Oh my god! Are you a DaVinci user? Okay, you've gained a bit more respect.
I mean, it's free.
It is free.
It's free. All right, but let's actually get to it. So, what have y'all done since the last time we gathered here?
I was supposed to compete, and not once but two different people hit a power box at my university. So my whole university lost power on Saturday. So that was fun.
It was two different people?
Basically, the quickest way I could tell the story is around 5 a.m. somebody hit the box. The electricians came out. They were like, "Oh, it's not a lot of damage." They fixed it in like an hour, so nobody really noticed because nobody was awake. But like, when you wake up, you see that like your alarm clock's not set or what have you. And then somebody else hit it at like 10 o'clock in the morning, and it just stayed out for most of the day.
Ooh.
I think it's cursed. I'm sorry to tell you.
Yeah, but I mean, Mega, your team did end up winning a map. I'm pretty sure, right?
I couldn't tell you.
Which team were you with? I forget.
Fable, right?
I was with Fable. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I believe they won one map, which I think was a lot more than what we all kind of thought they would.
Yeah, they did win one map and lose round one. I just looked.
We literally didn't scrim. I think we got like half a scrim in once. We randomly picked up a DPS player who is like, I want to play ball because I think it'll be fun. And that, like, I realized it was a recipe for disaster, but then also me just not being able to play. Tragic, TM. Tragic.
That just means they would have won the whole thing if you were there. That's all it means.
But no.
Easy dubs.
But hey, you know what? The person who you invited here as this week's guest, you know, he was having to help run everything behind the scenes. You could tell us all about that, right? How fun it is.
Hunter, we don't care about you. Headrammer, go.
Well, okay, I'll just go. I left last week. I'll do it again.
This is still becoming a third. I said a third-person podcast, but no, a three-person podcast. Ready to go. How was your week, Hunter?
You know what? It was boring. I worked. It's not too boring. I went out and did BPL. I did 5 maps straight with no breaks, and it was a really fun time.
That was a
That's
fun
all I've
series
got.
to watch. That was a fun
was
series to
so
watch and then
fun.
follow up because like I was sitting there watching you guys type like, do they want to break? No, they're just rolling with it. They're just rolling. They want to go. They want to go. They want to go. I've never seen a team actually want to play 5 straight maps.
The players were just like, "Yeah, we want to keep playing," and I'm like, "Okay."
Was
sure,
this the
let's keep
Munching
going."
series?
No, I had the Munching
No.
series.
Oh,
No.
okay.
And then I forget what I was doing afterwards, but I was like going back through BPL, and there were 3 maps in, and I go over, and Dex is like, "We'll be right back," and I said, "You son of a bitch!
You went to the Joker. You went to the Joker. Face It League coverage.
I did.
Right
I was
after.
there. I did nothing, bro. I just sat there and looked pretty. It was wonderful.
Yeah. And I guess now we can move on to the man, the myth himself, Headrammer.
Hi.
You did a lot this weekend with Kunoichi Rising.
Yeah. So we ran kind of like a little bit of unofficial, kind of like grand finals send off to the season for the Calling All Heroes like Rising divisions. Unfortunately, they didn't get an official one for the end of their year. So we decided, put one on with the Rising community to give them like at least a little bit of end to their season. So it was like an official champion. Well, sorry, unofficial champion technically. But no, we ran that this weekend. Made it a little bit of invitational, based on team circuit points, and it was a pretty fun event. Honestly, I always really enjoy putting the Kunoichi events. They're always a blast. You don't really know who's going to win. Sometimes there's more upsets than you would expect. And there's something also just nice about running an overall smaller tournament. Sometimes the large tournaments can get a little bit stressful. When we have one of those, like, say, large GOATS tournaments, something like that, where it's like 40 teams running at once, going through a bracket, and you're like, I get no breaks. And especially because those events are also usually multi-regional, where I'll wake up really early for EU, and then I'll go straight through there, get like a short little break before NA, and then go NA the rest of the day. And those kill my weekend. Which, it's fun overall, but it's like a long. You just kind of don't get a weekend then. So any kind of time I have just like an NA only thing, it's pretty chill.
Yeah, and I mean, what was it? It was KCMX that ended up winning that one. They were a really fun team to watch. Fruit Salad, they played in the grand finals. I'm trying to remembering names even as a caster is something I'm absolutely terrible at. But like, even though it ended in a sweep, right? It was still like it wasn't like a dominant sweep. It was back and forth a little bit, and it was really fun to actually watch that and see that.
Yeah, I also really enjoyed watching some of the lower bracket stuff too. Unfortunately, like apparently the best match in the entire thing, we unfortunately didn't stream. It was the loser semis. It was a map 5 type situation. But we watched a little bit of it through one of the players was streaming, and that match looked insane. Watching it be played, and then there was potentially a little bit of upset in loser round 4. At least because the team that was in the winners dropped from winners finals into losers finals ended up losing. But no, it was exciting. I enjoyed it.
Yeah. I mean, Fruit Salad went on that run, the lower bracket, knocked out. I'm trying to remember who it was and who dropped down because they looked close against
MRG, Amethyst.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember coming into one of the streams on Saturday and everyone was going against. I was like, you know what? I'm going to drop 100 points on them. And they ended up winning. I think someone else like kind of matched it, so it was 50-50 on the points across the board. But it was just really funny to see no one was really going for MRG. But I think the reason why is they were playing Tiny's team, and everyone was going for Tiny. This is not me just saying I don't like Tiny or that team.
You don't like Tiny, is what you said.
And
putting words in my mouth. Putting words in my mouth. I see. But I mean, it was
I think they're a little bit of a newer team too. At least that's what I was told.
But yeah, basically, fun fact: if you're ever interested and you want to like hurt your head, go look at the Calling All Heroes and how the point tabulations work throughout the year. Because as somebody who had to do the points and stuff, it absolutely drives you crazy. But yeah, Sakura Mochi, they were very new, but they were able to get in through both me and Vigil because we played for them for that last major. So all of the points we had accumulated throughout the year went to them instead of the team we had been with most of the time. So they just got a bunch of points that was able to slip them in. But it very fun squad over there. Absolutely love them. Love everybody in Rising. Well, that's a lie, but the problematic people weren't here this weekend. Let's put it that way. But I mean, yeah, it's always nice, especially when Kunoichi, you're able to get some full scale production and everything behind the scenes set up. That way, the players, they get a chance to shine and really show themselves off, see what they can do.
Yeah, and a big shout out to you and the Rising team too, going down and actually calculating out the circuit points. Because for those that don't know, the official circuit points stopped being released about halfway through. The circuit.
It was after Major 1. They literally for both levels. They just stopped after Major 1 for some reason. Even for like mainstream COD, somebody had to go through and count the points after.
I feel like that's just insane that they would just completely stop it.
Feels a little important.
Yeah, especially even for like I forget what the highest tier was called, like, but
Challengers, I think.
Yeah, even for that, like, just saying, okay, it's up to you guys to figure out who's gonna be here. You could probably take a guess, but still.
Well, no. So once the season was actually done, somebody who works at Calling All Here, like the actual, I think it's Radiant that runs it, did the calculations for challengers. They just did not do it for Rising. They told Echo that they would do it for Rising, and they were like, we'll get it to you by the first of the year. And I think it was like the 6th or the 7th rolled around, and she was just like, I need to just do this myself, and I offered to help. And we literally took like, it was like 4 or 5 hours one Sunday morning. We were just hammering out numbers.
It was very much appreciated.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, and then, I mean, very much appreciated again, being able to actually have a tournament and stuff because, not every little minor scene always gets a tournament, and it's always super hard, I know, on the back end especially. That would need, hey, listen, that's why Headrammer's here this week. He could tell you about how fun it is to try to be the official cat wrangler to get the producers, observers, casters, everybody on the same page in the same place at the same time.
It can be interesting at times for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. But let's move on now to the question we kind of always ask our guests here when they come on. So, Headrammer, give me 2 questions, two different parts. We'll cut in as always, but like, what got you into doing production work with esports or just esports in general? Like, I know a lot of people who do watch us know you as the person who I want to say owns CGL, or at least the Overwatch side of CGL, but you do run basically all the tournaments there. What got you into it, and what got you to the position where you were running the Overwatch side of CGL?
Yeah, so for me, I got into esports a little bit late in that Overwatch for me is my first esport. And for me, I didn't start really playing. I started playing Overwatch in season 3 of Overwatch. Had a few friends. People I would game with at the time kind of came to me at one point and said like, "Hey, there's this new game. There's this game Overwatch. It's 50% off. You guys want to try it?" kind of thing. And we got it. Started playing. I really enjoyed it, and they kind of like funneled off a little bit. Eventually playing it, but I kept playing it, and I eventually met some people in rank to play with them for a while. And started started following it a little more in depth. And I think, if I remember correctly, the very first thing I found from the esport itself was World Cup related stuff. It was and it was the World Cup with majority of like the Lucic High players, etc. The Zumba jumping the graph through Eichenwald, the little like roof thing right there. I just thought it was like super super cool. And then from there, I started going back and watching a lot of the older stuff from like Apex, etc. On YouTube. So it was kind of like the YouTube rabbit hole that really kind of brought me into it in the first place. And then from there, I started poking around to see if there's any way I could be like, is there any way I can play in some kind of events like this? And I started poking around through Reddit, etc. And I found a Discord link to a server called the Overguard, which I don't know how many people are familiar with it. I would say most probably not Hunter maybe. But Overguard was a really old server that used to run Overwatch tournaments. and they were kind of like a precursor before CGL was on its stuff. At least they were more on the PS4 side. We were more on the Xbox side initially. Um, but I never played an Overguard. In the Overguard server itself, I found another Discord server link to what was the CGL server. Wasn't called CGL at the time. And that was the February of 2018 is what it was. And I joined a team that season and started playing as a player. That was kind of how I got into it in the first time.
So you're about to be on your 7 years of being basically a part of CGL here. You're about to start season 15. I mean, you've kind of spoken to at least I know me indirectly, or at least a group of people indirectly, about how it all got started with you and CGL and how you kind of, pushed it along. But like when you finally got I'm going to say the reins here, like, are you surprised, or could you believe that what CGL's kind of turned into now?
I would say no, not really. I would say at the time where it really blew up, I wasn't really fully in charge then. The time it fully blew up, I would say it was more 2019, and that season was the first season I was in charge of the logistics of like signups and management and that kind of stuff like that. So I was kind of like I kind of worked my way up from being like a basic mod through the team that handled the logistics for the tournament. And as we got bigger and bigger, logistics became more and more important in managing a lot of the tournament. So I started doing more and more. And some of the things I'm good at when it comes to things with logistics is like basically just removing a lot of the manual work out of logistics, whether it be making some kind of spreadsheet automation thing to remove a lot of things easier, which is what it started with, to cutting up more development stuff to make it so I don't have to repeat doing roster adjustments a billion times in a season. I started writing that roster site the very first time after that season we blew up, when I did 2,400 roster adjustments myself, and I'm like, I am never doing this again. I refuse. It was that season was a big lesson for me in scaling logistics. It worked, but like it was a lot of work. And so things kind of just like naturally became that over time, because when the group that was running CGL at the time wanted to take it more seriously and try to build into some kind of like business, etc. You had all of the leaders of CGL at the time kind of go one step up higher to like the org level as the org expanded into different titles. And so then I was in charge of Overwatch then, essentially.
Yeah, I know CGL is in a lot of other stuff, especially fighting games, because whenever you go to the CGL channel when we're not streaming, it always recommends, I think, someone playing Mortal Kombat, and there's always someone streaming it, which is really interesting to see. But like Hunter, Mega, I mean, we've been a part of CGL now for, I'm at least gonna say for the majority of us, at least a year. I feel like in the time that we've been here, we've seen it absolutely just get better and better. Is like there anything you guys want to kind of pick Headrammer's brain about here with it?
I mean,
And I want to go for it, Megalass. I'm
no.
brewing.
I was still brewing. I was gonna let you go. I mean, realistically, right? Like, it's one of those things where you would assume, like, there's a lot of like ease, right? Like, especially from an outsider's perspective, if you had no clue about esports, right? I promise you could probably look at Headrammer and just be like, oh, he's just a guy that sits behind the scene, doesn't really do anything. But there's so much that happens on the back end that I now know of. Like, obviously, there's organizing the broadcast, doing that sort of stuff, but being able to find ways to produce content, figuring out where to allocate those resources to try to, like, you truly have to manage it like it's a company. And I imagine like, probably the most difficult thing about that is making sure at the end of the day that it's still a product you're happy with while you're still having fun, even though it has to run as a business to try to exist.
Yeah, definitely at times it can be like that, because really still in the end, I mean, people say this a lot. Like at least from my own basis, beyond just like the whole like money aspect of thing, and like time is honestly like the biggest resource of having to manage. Like there's a billion things I want to do, but there's like I just cannot do them all. And sometimes it's like, okay, is this something I can get someone else to spin up and run, and get that and give them the resources they need to do to make that thing happen, or is it something like I have to do? And so a lot of my work I've done over the years in some aspects is to try to remove myself as a bottleneck for things. Um, over time you'll see more and more things like there's some things, for example, that happen via the site that like used to require just like me to do something, and now I build a little toggle so like another mod can handle it or something like that, so I don't have to. Because anything that requires me as a bottleneck just either waste more of my time that I could be spending somewhere else for some kind of tedious task, or it's just something that also just slows responses for other people too. And admittedly, though, I do also have a bad habit of sometimes being too involved with things because I think that there's so many cool things. And so historically, I've also sometimes struggled to delegate a bit. Either because I struggled to find someone who could do what I want them to do without me having to tell them each time I want them to do something. Like, you put someone on a role and then they can do the work, but you have to like, you have to ask them every single time to do it, or such thing, rather than put them in a position and they just like, oh, here's your position, here's your role, please go do these things for me. And that's something, for example, that like, Hippie's always been a really amazing person to have in a stream lead role, because you can put him in the position, you tell him what to do, and then that man is always like going and finding something to do or trying something, and like he's very much on top of things, and that's like it's a godsend to have if you're someone who needs to fill a role. But it's also really hard to find people like that, because a lot of times either something you need done is boring and not a lot of people want to do it, or sometimes people will apply for a staff position to have the prestige of being staff, or just to have the title or the Discord colored role. I don't actually plan on sticking around long term. So it's like it can be a little bobbling game sometimes.
I always find that funny when people like want to apply for something just to say like, oh yeah, look, my name's a different color on this one server. Like no one else is gonna see it outside of it. It's always just kind of funny to see it like that. But I mean, you just talked about Hippie, and I imagine as we go into that second part of the question, like what kind of keeps you doing this? I imagine because all of us basically said there's a large part of it that I believe all of us kind of said, the people we work with doing this are a huge part of what kind of keeps us coming back, because there's, in my opinion, some of the best people I've ever worked any job with here. But I mean, you've talked about financial stuff, and I know we all kind of know that one, you've done a lot for CGL that we'd never want to know how much you've actually done it for, or at least paid out in CGL for. But like, what kind of keeps you going back to it? What kind of keeps you coming back to it over and over and over again?
I would say there's a few things. I mean, you touched on it with the people. The people is obviously a large part of it. It generally feels like a community. I consider a large amount of people in the community, as well as the staff, I consider everyone to be really good friends. I like interacting with people. I really enjoy spending time with people. I mean, you see me on Overwatch half the time playing quick play. I'll start up a 5-stack. We'll start just slowly gathering different people, whether it's people from the community or from the staff. We'll start playing games. Whether it be going to the OWCS lands and meeting up there and having a good time. Beyond, it's like I consider the entire act of doing this whole thing. I consider, at least nowadays, CGL at one point in time was trying to push itself to be more business thing, making the billions, etc. But I consider CGL nowadays to be more of like a passion project. I wouldn't say it's really pushing to become some business that is making tons of money. That being said, if someone wants to buy us out, send me a lot of money, I'll buy out, I'll sell out, sure. But so for me, when it comes to, I consider it to be an avenue to explore some of my passions, and some of that is just like having a place where either I can play, compete, or make other people happy playing, competing. I've always really enjoyed putting on an environment where people can start, really small and work their way up, both from a player perspective or from a staff perspective. I'm really happy when I see someone who start out saying like, the plat tier and has worked their way up and now might be playing professionally. Like that's always such a really cool feeling to see. It's great to see them have that success, knowing that they were able to work their way through the environment and go up. And the same thing on the staff side. It's really cool to see some people come in when they were either really young or having no experience and are just owning it now. It's such a cool experience. And it's not necessarily like living through them. You're kind of just proud of them, to be honest. And additionally, I also just like building stuff too. Building things is cool. I think, I spent a lot of time doing development stuff for the roster side. Sometimes people will come to me and like, hey, do you think we could try this thing? I'm like, sure, let's try it, see if it works. Why not? As long as it's not like a completely like brain dead idea, I'm generally, at least I try to be willing to just try things and have fun. Because sometimes it works out, sometimes it's really cool, sometimes it won't, but okay, it didn't work out, but we tried it. And there's a lot of things you can do with that.
The basically the line of, hey, let's try it out. If it doesn't work is the entirety of this entire podcast. If it works, cool. If it doesn't, okay, at least we tried.
Yeah, exactly. And you want to foster an environment where someone is like comfortable to come to you just like, hey, I want to do this thing. Can we try it, kind of thing? And if they're willing to, own it and drive it to completion, so sure. Like sometimes hippie will come to me with something and be like, hey, I have an idea. Can we try something like this? And like he shows it to me, like, yeah, sure, that works great. Sometimes I'll be like, hippie, I have an idea, and he'll come to me like, that's stupid. I'm like, all right, fair enough.
Hippie's eventually gonna be a guest on this show. I will tell you that. I don't know when, but I will force him to be here.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how, but he's gonna be here.
Yeah, I think it's also interesting too sometimes of how, like relationships with people can work when you're in charge too, because like it's weird. It's because like sometimes it's an interesting balancing act. Because like obviously I consider myself to be friends with a large amount of people. At the same time, there's times where you have to be serious too. Sometimes you got to put on like the boss hat and be like, okay, no, like what you did is not acceptable, kind of thing like that, or like or someone's doing something like sloppy work or something like that, or on the unfortunate cases where like someone actually does something awful, and unfortunately happens, and you got to deal with it. At the same time, it's like that balancing act. At the same time, it's really easy also sometimes to fall into the trap of like what's it called not being able to accept feedback too, and that's something I'm always trying to challenge myself to do.
Mm-hmm.
Of being able to be like, basically, what's it called? Be able to accept that you could be wrong, kind of thing like that. Trust me, I know I could be wrong. Don't worry about that.
Holy shit, I can't speak. Accepting criticism?
Yeah, accepting criticism essentially. Because it's very natural to feel like initially that you're like, there's that initial response when like says something you did is crap or something like that. And then the initial response is like, you can feel it like boiling up and turn inside of you very briefly, and you're just like, nope, go back down. And you're like, yeah, maybe you're right. And I think that can be something I'm always trying to accept that, feedback is good.
Yeah. I mean, guys, is there anything you want to add on to this before we move on to whatever the next thing we're going to talk about?
Whatever it might be next. Go ahead, Megalass. I do have thoughts that are actually brewing this time. So.
Oh no! You let you cook. I was just gonna be silly.
No, I was going to agree with a lot of what Headrammer said, because when I was around CGL the first time, because I very much went to the thing as I came in as a new caster, like, all right, let me do a few games here. This seems like a funny little console league. I'm still playing on PlayStation. Let's have some fun. And I did that for like, I think it was season 7 and 8, if I'm not mistaken. I'll have to look back. And then kind of fell out of casting for a while, and eventually got back into it. Came back to CGL. I'm like, oh, this is some big ass thing now. Okay. It was already like a pretty big thing like before, but I'm looking at it, I'm like, there's a lot of shit. There's a lot of moving parts that I wasn't seeing, 3 years previously. And then nowadays being able to have like a much better look at it, it's like, there's a reason why there's not another league that has existed for 15 seasons in the world of Overwatch. Is a very good reason for it. So this is not me glazing Headrammer by any means.
It's okay. You can keep it out. It's fine.
Yeah,
Okay.
keep going. Why not?
No, it is interesting though. You say that because like it is. I think there's never a situation where things are done. Like you try to approach it each time, where each event you do and each new season, like you make it like a little bit better somehow. Um, and because there's always this thing's never done. There's always so much more that can be done. And I definitely do think, at least from where we came from and where we're going, we've definitely made a lot of progress over the years. But God, there's so many more things we can do.
I mean, like that kind of mindset. This is gonna be just such an odd comparison, but like, just follow me. Just follow me here. Trust me,
Okay.
right? But like, anytime if you've ever seen Mr. Beast on a podcast, which that's the only way I will interact with Mr. Beast content. Everything else hurts my brain. But like
Mm-hmm.
him on a podcast actually discussing, like, it's that kind of mindset, right? Where it's like each time, obviously you can't just innovate from the ground up every single time. You can't just rebuild something new and expect it to be an instant success, right? So build upon something, make it better and better every single time. Find the flaws, iron them out, add in new features as the ideas come about, and that'll always generate the best kind of things. Um, and so I feel like that it's just a very healthy mindset to have for a lot of things, right? Like, just being able to approach it approach something as big as a league like that, because like Hunter said, there's not a lot that is run for this many years. And considering where CGL started, like you said, it was like an Xbox only thing, to where it's evolved now. I mean, it truly is just, it's insane to see how far it's come, and the fact that there's still plans to push it farther, figure out new avenues and anything that it can do.
Yeah, it's one of those things where over the years I've talked to a large number of people who were like looking to run their own tournaments or start up their own league or whatever, or people that had one and were asking for advice, etc. And one of the common like there's always like a number of like common mistakes that people kind of make when they're starting stuff up early. Like it's and a lot of those end up being kind of being based around the whole fact of like you don't just start there, like where we say we are right now. Um, there's a reason why it takes time to get there, and why the process of getting there is really important. Um, because yes, you could try to go all crazy out the very first time, but a lot of times you're gonna fail if you do something like that. Like the starting small and working your way up, you learn so much along the way. Because like you say you just like take the CGL rule set and just copy and paste it and make your own tournament. There's a lot of things in there that either it's just pointless if you're small or just don't make sense. There, and you also don't necessarily understand the reason of why those things existed. Like, for example, there's a large amount of things that, um, say, from like a rule set standpoint, we're very sticklers on like essentially like no exceptions to certain things, are doing things in like an automated fashion that really help with scale. That when you're smaller, you can be like, well, you have a little more of the time to do that more manual investigation, the nuance of the situation, to say like, okay, yeah, it's probably fine, kind of thing. So you can create there's pros and cons to size. When you're a much smaller tournament or community, things are a little more everyone knows everyone. It's more homey. It's in some aspects it can be a bit more of a community. Um, getting large isn't necessarily always. I don't think getting large should be the goal for a lot of people. Instead, getting large is like the result of building something that people want to do, like play in. And I've seen a number of events just fall over because of that mindset overall. Because like CGL started from a group chat, like and just like through like manual effort and people wanting to play grew larger. Necessarily getting huge wasn't the original goal when they started things out. And I'm not one of the original founders, so I'm taking all this information from what they told me. And forget exactly where I was going from there, but that was just one of those two.
I mean, that's kind of always how we segue to other topics. We just kind of say, well, I kind of forgot what we were talking about. Let's just go to this. But I mean, especially with being in esports, especially grassroots or tier 3, tier 4, whatever people want to call what CGL is, or I'm assuming is, what, I mean, you talked about it, you touched on it a little bit. There's always that point where like, you have to be the adult in the room with drama going on. And a lot of the time, like, for me, it's hard to tell if something's an inside joke. You always just assume it is. but like we've seen that some dumb stuff go on. It not only in games, but like whenever we randomly get added in the CGL
Mhm.
server as well. Like
Mm.
it sometimes it's funny, sometimes it's like, what the hell are you even doing, man? Like it's an interesting thing because of where we are. People know that there's not going to be a whole lot of consequences, but like
Mm.
it always seems like it's a very fine line to balance on, like you kind of said, having to actually put your foot down and having to like just kind of let it go because you can tell it's kind of being a joke or not.
Yeah, that is true. Anytime, like, freaking people just have this habit all the time to take things too far. People gotta give them like the last word in something. A lot of times in these things that say like happen on the server, and I I usually prefer the approach a lot of times of like trying to, in most situations, unless somebody's just completely like out of line. That's so it's so blatantly out of line. I usually try to take the philosophy of giving at least one warning to people. That way, like people have the ability to like at least have the at least have some of the ability in their mind to recognize, okay, maybe I've gone a bit too far, like the self-realization aspect of things. Um, and could also, I'm trying to find from a community management aspect, people are oftentimes a lot more willing to accept a situation or accept punishment if they felt like they had a good indication they shouldn't have done it, kind of thing. People tend to dislike just like punishment out of the blue or with like just from like a faceless entity kind of situation. Um, and then like there's some places that where you do some basic thing. Maybe it wasn't even like super out of line, but they'll just like immediately like say ban you or mute you, and you'll get no word. Nobody will respond to you. But if you get someone warning like, hey, kind of pushing the line here. If you keep doing it, we're gonna have to like mute you or suspend you or ban you or whatever. And they keep doing it, well then both to them and also everyone else around, there's legitimately no excuse for you to keep doing this thing. Um, but the thing is also, if you say that, then you have to actually, if they keep doing it, you have to actually, act. If you let it go, the people will definitely learn. Like people love to test the limits of things, and so if you say if you do this, we will do this, and they do it, well, then you actually have to respond.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
See, that reminds me so much of like the early days of BPL. Purely because like I remember when BPL first started, because it came from the Avast community, right? Um, that there was a lot of like, not younger people. It's not like we were dealing with kids or anything like that, but like more people who were immature, right? Your 16-year-olds who were going to be like, yeah, heck you to heck and heck, or something much worse than that. But and there was always this interesting way that they dealt with the drama where it felt like, I remember again when I first started that, it felt way too formal for the situation,
Mhm.
where like they would actually have these full on like, hey, this is why this person's getting banned. This is like, they'd have full reports on anything that happened. They'd like conduct investigations, and I just remember thinking early on, I was like, oh, what? Why are we doing all of this? It's BPL. You're overshooting what you're doing. But like
Mm-hmm.
as I've gotten older and as I've like tried to mellow myself out more, I've kind of realized that like that was an extremely professional way to do it, especially when you're dealing with the random drama that can pop up in esports. It could be anything from, cheating accusations to this person called me a funny name that I don't like. And it's always, I don't know, it's just always interesting to see people be able to sort of take it seriously despite any of the situations involving it.
Yeah, and it's definitely a learned skill over time. I mean, still to this day, I'm not gonna say I'm perfect at it all, what it means, but sometimes people say something just like it just like annoys you, and you're just like, for me, honestly, one of the best skills I learned over time was that um, I almost always when I type something, unless it's like a one-word thing, like I'll type something and then reread what I wrote before I hit send. Um, and that thing has saved me 1 billion times. Both from because these from two standpoints. Usually, like if someone annoys you and you type a response back and you look back and then you reread your message, you're like, that's maybe I shouldn't say that. That can save you from a lot of additional drama that never would have happened if you just responded like a little more professionally or more kindly. And then, but also from a standpoint when you try to deal with like specifics, I also find like I also try to read it from a standpoint of like, okay, does what I wrote was what I wrote actually make sense? Because like the wording, there's a lot of like words that are like construed back and forth, that have different meanings depending on how you use them. Um, Especially when I'm, say doing tech support in like the question channel or something like that. So just the act of rereading honestly saves so much drama because people make so much more extra work for themselves by just like the moment emotion gets involved, whether it be like I trigger your emotion or you trigger mine, and we just then suddenly we're arguing about something that's not even related to the problem, like that just makes things 10 times harder.
Sorry, I'm only laughing at the rereading everything I just typed because if you guys have seen me type, I misspell words constantly.
Okay, to be fair, my spelling is abysmal. So like my spelling and grammar not good, but I think I can keep the meaning behind my words out.
Yeah, no, like there was a point last year where I recognized I was misspelling a word, and every time like I was casting, or I think it was like I would misspell the word myself. So I at a point just said, okay, I'm gonna keep on misspelling this until someone points it out, and then no one did, so I just stopped.
I'll catch you from like time to time in like your Twitter posts, and I'll put like the
minor spelling mistake.
Yeah.
It'll be the smallest of things too, and I'm like, nope, that's enough.
It's normally just me misspelling the word "the."
It would be like the. I'm like,
yeah.
Yeah, definitely don't ask Fish about my spelling or grammar. She'll just give you a rant about how awful it is.
My
Honestly, we need Fish on when Headrammer's not here, so that way we can get the real tea. You know what I mean?
Oh, the real tea. Oh, GG's. It's all over.
I mean, we need to get Fish on now to spill all the tea on Headrammer, and we need to get someone like Reach or Orange to spill all the tea on Person.
Well, to be fair, Person's tea is open. It's just I feel like, listen, as much as we're all like, yeah, everybody's great, we all love each other. I think I can speak for all of us when I say our observers are very silly goobers, and I love them for it. But like, it's almost like you like walk into like an out of control third grade classroom, like somebody's throwing glue on the wall. There's no other person eating crayons in the corner. The teacher's at the desk, has given up, sitting there, and somehow they just capture amazing shots in game that they just works every single time.
No, and like every time, anytime BPL streams, and I'm not a part of it, I will just go into A Live the next day and try to figure out what the fuck they were talking about. And half the time, like two of them are still awake playing Sea of Thieves.
It has been so much lately. They're just in there now doing nothing. They're just in there with like hordes of people just doing nothing, just doing their own thing. Like this past week.
Now, Reach is playing Overwatch. Orange is there trying to get someone to play Played Up. You have someone playing, I believe it was TFT, and then someone playing Minecraft, which it's probably Knock. But and then
Are trains still a thing there?
Yes. Yeah.
I feel like. Go ahead.
That it's more of a Solomon thing specifically, but yeah, the trains do still make their approach time to time.
Yeah, I feel like it's the thing you don't bring up, or else you're gonna get Solomon just absolutely talking about trains the entire time.
Just gone for 2 weeks. We never see him again.
Yeah, just on a train. He went for a train ride.
Yeah.
He'll be back, maybe with milk, maybe with nothing else, but he'll be back.
The chunky kind, specifically.
Oh, dear God. Stop bringing up the chunky kind. God damn it, Hunter. We almost went a week, man.
Yeah, when I heard that story, like, third person, I'm like, what in the world is wrong with you guys?
What? No, what's wrong? It's Reach, right? It's Reach?
Yeah, it was Reach, yeah.
No, it's what's wrong with Reach, the fact that they did it twice.
Yeah, that is actually insane behavior.
Yeah. But I mean, so we talked about some of the stuff, the drama as well. But I mean, you talked about getting, trying to do something cool every time, something that comes up with CGL. I feel like what's coming up with this upcoming season, and everyone if you're not already joined CGL season 15 coming up. But I mean, you're adding a complete new region with South America, and I know that's with a collaboration with, I don't want to pronounce the name wrong, but I know they're currently leading the Face It. Senju. They're currently leading the Face It recommendation thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and like that's huge for them. It's awesome to see that, but like I feel like this is a really cool step to be making, the adding in the South American region for this.
Yeah, definitely. It's adding a new region anytime is kind of difficult. Because well, even like when we were NA only to start out with. When we added EU the very first time, we essentially at the time we kind of like acquired a EU Xbox server league. And we kind of like brought some other like leadership in with us. And opening a new region is always hard. Just from a standpoint, EU was like easier in the sense that realistically, pretty much everyone spoke English. So it wasn't like that hard from a language standpoint. But even just like getting a foothold in the region is hard because existing players in the region already have some kind of like foothold for it. Why would they leave the place they're currently playing? So you have to at very minimum meet the standards of the region already has, but usually you have to like, try to exceed it in some capacity the way that people would come to you in the first place. And sometimes you can get kind of cheap by acquiring a league, which we slightly did for EU. But at the same time, we were much better ran than the EU league we acquired anyways, and definitely put resources in the region. When it comes to in South America, it's our first new region in maybe like 6 years. It's been a very long time since we added a region. But this one comes with the additional complication that the primary language is not English, Portuguese. But even within that, while Portuguese is the most common, there's still technically Spanish on the side too. And Group Senju has been amazing to work with. Originally, we didn't necessarily approach them because we weren't necessarily looking to expand regions, but they kind of approached us about some potential work together on doing more stuff for the South America region. And I mean, the South America region has been kind of neglected for a little while when it comes to like the official, Blizzard ran stuff. So they've kind of been left to fend on their own. And admittedly, that's kind of like, our base and foundation is console, and kind of pulls on my heart a little bit too because of like how long we would consider to be console, be kind of like excluded from like generally the wider scene of a lot of Overwatch esports stuff for quite a long time. And console also has a pretty decent base when it comes to things in like Central and South America, because things are expensive, so PCs aren't necessarily as available as much, and consoles are cheaper. And so they kept approaching us about potential things for that. We started exploring the idea. We're like, I think we can do something for this. Because adding for us, on the standpoint of adding more teams and people, just the act of adding teams and people, like honestly, doesn't really add much more work for us. We could add another 100 teams, and the most it would do in terms of adding more work is, it increase our load in the questions channel and stuff, and maybe some more SR verifications, because our automation kind of takes care of most of the day-to-day stuff for us. So adding another region from a people standpoint is not that hard. What's become hard with this one is mostly the language and regional differences. Because it's no longer a situation where I can talk as much directly to the players. Group Senju is doing a wonderful job. They've kind of been our eyes and ears for the community itself there, and they've helped us tremendously when it comes to like translation and interaction with the community there. They've helped with the support for the players going through the sign-up process. I've started integrating localization support into the roster site, so that the framework I use to code the site in supports localization, but you have to go through every single thing of text that is on the site and mark it as translatable, essentially, which can be a lot of work. And it's definitely it's not all done yet, but we've hit a lot of stuff so far. And then once there, it spits out a bunch of like files where it says like here's the original phrase and here's the translated phrase for every single one of them. And then they've helped us translate that. They've translated the entire rule set for us, and that rule set is freaking long, to be honest. And their turnaround time was really impressive for around that hugely written rule set. And we've kind of been going through the process slowly. We're not offering PC support there yet, console only. Only open tier for now. We're going to try to expand more and more over time. There's talks about doing some potential PC support upcoming for an event in like a month or so to try to get them used to the whole platform thing. And so far it's been a pretty valuable partnership. I'm really excited to see how the season goes. But since this is our first time requiring like actual full localization, it's definitely a big learning experience for sure for us.
I would imagine, but like from what we've seen in the couple streams that we've done with it, and I think it's been William Mundy who's been casting them and just doing them. It seems like, I mean, they have the passion, they know what they're doing, and they're really excited for this as well. Because, like you said, it's adding a new region, one that's kind of been neglected, and now we're getting more eyes on it, which is always just a good start for it.
Yeah, that's one of the things they really want. Like the region itself and Group Center really wants is the primary thing they want is to give South American players more recognition on an international audience. But whether it be through Wikipedia credit, notability for like some staff, for just like trying to give the South American region attention so that more people will look at it, and that's it's absolutely something we're willing to help out with.
Yeah. Guys, as we kind of head into the wind down here on this episode, is there any topics, anything you want to talk to Headrammer about or make any jokes about? Because, I mean, within the last year of CGL, we got a lot of jokes, not only from doing FNO and SNO, but from Mr. Headrammer himself. Like I said, I introduced him as the pistachio cult leader. I love that after you posted that photo, it was basically used in every stream after that. You good, Hunter?
Yeah, I'm fine. Just a bit of an aneurysm from this conversation. That's all. I have nothing specifically to say to Headrammer at this time. Should we bring up what we're all actually doing though? Because we haven't brought up the actual thing that we're literally starting tomorrow. By the way,
I mean we brought it up for a brief moment last week.
I was gonna say I thought Spectreon mentioned it. Surely that dude loves to yap about
we
himself
let the
and how good he
EU
is.
guy explain it.
We let the EU guy explain it 2 weeks ago, and then we did touch on it with Person last week a little bit. But I mean,
why that guy hates Overwatch?
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah. So what Hunter's pointing at here is we are actually starting a Face It team. Granted, that pose Headrammer gave might actually just be the entire vibe of our team. We are just here to have fun. Like the whole idea kind of started a lot like this podcast of like just saying, hey, who wants to do this? It's gonna be a vibes team, but now there's a really likely chance we could somehow qualify, which I find really funny.
We talked about this off stream, and there's currently 17 teams signed up, which 16 qualify. And if we don't qualify, this podcast is ending. I'm taking it with me.
No,
that's crazy.
Oh my gosh!
You can't take my assets. They're only saved on my flash drive.
Well, you should check again, buddy.
Where's my flash drive?
It's literally Yu-Gi-Oh! Like freaking, he just walked into the card shop, took your grandfather's soul, is like, you have to beat me to win him back. Like, what is this?
Damn, both my grandfathers are dead.
Hey, you know what? Hey, listen, they can go chill with my grandmothers. Dap me up.
How do I dab one up that's in the virtual world?
Aggressively.
You become Pixel. Okay, first off, do not hit me with aggression. I will cry. You know what? Here, let's how about a group therapy session? All right.
All right, group hug.
Quick group therapy session.
I was just gonna.
I'm literally getting lobby set up as we speak.
Oh wait, do we actually have a scrim?
Yeah.
Hunter set it up. Only four of us.
Headrammer's the fifth one.
Yeah.
Fuck! I wanted to play Minecraft.
It's
okay. We can play the Minecraft custom game in Overwatch.
Oh my god.
But yeah, I mean, okay. So listen. Yeah, no. So carry your Face It. In case you're already interested in some Face It action, I think Joker and Spec have been covering some Face It games, and they're both pretty cool people because we know them. Bullskunk as well. Cannot forget about him. Love that guy. He's actually the reason I know of the pistachio meme, because I think it was the week y'all were in Stockholm. he randomly just had that like hidden in his background, so it would only come up when Hippie had Bolskunk full screened.
Yeah,
but it was
yeah,
just, the pistachio was behind. It was hilarious.
My
The
God.
first the first week or two after that, Hippie hid the the Headrammer pistachio photo on the screen at all times. It was somewhere. It was just either really small or he replaced team logos with it.
Yeah, I remember. Like, obviously I was on my trip, and I was like, I know SNO's running at this time. Let me just tune in and see what's going on there. I just tuned in SNO. The first thing I see is my face just popped up my pistachio. I'm like, wait a minute, I was just there yesterday.
I remember watching the chat when you came into that, and you just said, "What is going on?"
Listen, like I said, there's such an air of professionalism, especially with like how great CGL, BPL, other like community broadcasts have really leveled up their game to make high quality products. Behind the scenes, everybody is a goober. Every single person. They're like, it is just nonsensical. I think the only person who's truly locked in, I'd say at least 90% of the time, is like Ray. But even then, like there's just some silly goober levels at all times behind the scenes, and we just hide it well.
I mean, I'll say Hippie's probably locked in 90% of the time because
Hippie's
when he's
secretly locked in.
Yeah,
it's like he looks locked in, and
it's a facade.
You actually talk to him, and he's just like, "Oh, look at me, I'm a little bean or something,"
Oh my God.
I got my new Transformer figure today, guys. You want to see it?
Oh my God! Yeah, everyone want to derail a broadcast? Just talk about Transformers. Hippie will shut it down single-handedly.
Hey, at least from the last time Hippie was on camera, we got the Hippie Enhance.
Yeah,
Enhance is powerful.
Hippie Enhance is incredible. I hate that I missed it, but I'm glad we have something from it.
No, the moment I saw him doing this with like a remote and going in, I'm like, I'm clipping this.
Yeah, but I mean, like we've talked about it, especially when Person was on, the power that Reach and Orange have if they're in the same broadcast derail everything and anything is just insane because it's something new every time. It always is.
Literally, I was gonna say, honestly, we should do that like next time. We should draft the most silly like team that you can have like for a broadcast. That would be a great little game. What's the silliest combination of people you could put together?
Oh, man, I'm pretty sure we already know that, to be honest with you.
I'm boosting retention by giving them a reason to tune in.
Oh. To be continued. I
love how I'm the person that knows the YouTube algorithm here. I'm trying to help.
Yeah,
I'm gonna burn everything.
I don't know anything about how YouTube algorithm works. The only thing I posted on this channel before this was my reels, and when I tried to post the skateboard painting videos, and that was it.
The YouTube algorithm. Listen, one day I will teach everyone the ways. I will require a whiteboard, and you all have to promise that you won't go cry in a corner.
Here,
because unironically, it's probably easier to go learn astrophysics.
Mega, next time we don't have a guest, we're gonna give you a whiteboard, and you are gonna teach us the ways.
This is a genuine thing. Like, I want to try to use, because I've used CGL last year to be able to fund like the VR stuff, and I'll have that set up. My CGL money this year is going to have an actual giant whiteboard behind me that I'm going to be able to project into VR. That way I can just start writing like a crazy person.
So it's like a smart board type thing?
No. Like in VR, it'll look like a whiteboard, but I'll be actually able to use my marker and stuff on it. Listen, the logistics on the back end are kind of complicated. We'll say that. But basically, at all times, I want a whiteboard behind me that looks like, for lack of better terms, schizophrenic nonsense. Like it is just going to be insanity.
It's just gonna be that meme from Always Sunny in Philadelphia where Charlie just has all this.
Yeah.
Exactly. Everyone's like, "Oh, do it with a corkboard." I'm like, "No, I want to be able to write with a marker and just have like random little things. Like there will be a Pac-Man ghost in the corner, but it'll have importance. Trust me.
It'll have a question mark attached to it. Like, what does it know?
It will have lore.
The cinematic universe.
The Megalass. I'm gonna get rid.
All right, Hunter. I can see that you're locked
Yeah.
in.
I had to Spectron. I go to my friends list and I check his name, and at 7:57 he's in queue for comp.
What
Oh
a
my
shock! What a shock! When we had him on, he was down bad in comp.
Can we point out that he was the one that pinged for scrim tonight?
Well, no,
Yes.
the original stuff that started earlier this morning was like, "Hey, are we gonna scrim today?" And then we started talking about it, and then someone put in a thing like, "Hey, who do we have for tomorrow?" And then we lost the complete track of everything. I asked, "Wait, are we still scrimming tonight?" Because Spectrum was like, "Okay, we're gonna scrim, and then we're gonna VOD review, then we're gonna play." And
We're not gonna VOD review. I'm sorry to tell you. It's
We're not
happening.
VOD reviewing. Do you think
Sorry,
we can get 6 of us into a call and actually actively say, "Okay, guys, here's how we need to improve"? No, we're gonna sit there and make jokes about how one of us fucked up.